Well, good evening. It's great to be with you again today. We're talking about the last week of Jesus' life. And before I do that, I just want to remind you that we have services this week. We're doing Monday, Thursday service. That'll be streaming at 7 o'clock. We're doing Good Friday service. That'll be streaming at 7 o'clock. That's the only way you can go to those services. Then on Saturday, we're streaming Resurrection, celebration of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We're streaming that at 6:30. On Sunday, we're doing two different things. We're streaming our services, our 10:30 service from West Campus, and we're streaming our 10 o'clock service from Main Campus. But in addition to that, we're doing drive-in church. You come, you sit in your car, you never get out. It's a non-touch service. We'll have live preaching and a live band. Even our cars will be socially distanced, but we encourage you to come on out. At least you get to see the body of Christ. Those services are at 8, 9:30, and 11 o'clock. That's this Easter Sunday. We look forward to seeing you there. Now, let's talk about the last week of Jesus' life. Yesterday, we were talking about Jesus riding into Jerusalem. He said, "Jerusalem, how many times I would have drawn you unto myself if you would have been willing. I would have protected you like a hen protects her chicks under her wings, but you would not." And I'm praying today that as we go through this whole situation with coronavirus, that instead of being unwilling and instead of resisting God, we'll accept his invitation to come under the protection of his arms, his wings, and find his peace and his joy and his love. So Jesus rode into Jerusalem on Monday. And on Monday, I just want to say that the significant thing about Monday was that it was the day that they actually would be selecting the lambs that would be sacrificed for the Passover. And so Jesus is entering into Jerusalem and he's presenting himself as the Passover lamb. That should get our attention. That should cause us to pause and to realize how much God really loves us, because he was willing for his son to pay the ultimate price so that we could go free. So Jesus left the city and he went back probably to Bethany. Behind me, you're viewing the Garden of Gethsemane. And at the Garden of Gethsemane is at the base of the Palm City Road. It would have been the road that Jesus walked from Bethany into Jerusalem. And so Jesus, each day until Thursday, he would pass by the garden where he would come on Thursday night to pray. We'll talk about that on Thursday. This is Tuesday, and Jesus is now coming into the city again. And as he's coming into the city, he passes by a fig tree. This is in Matthew chapter 21. It says that Jesus was hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to the tree, but he found nothing on it except leaves. It upset him so much, he looked at the tree and he said, "May you never bear fruit again." Immediately, the tree withered. Sometimes when I read this passage and I'm thinking about Jesus, and it's the last week of his life, and what is he trying to teach us? He's trying to teach us about our own lives. It says in the Bible, it says, "You will know them by their fruit." Who? Christians. And I wonder sometimes when Jesus comes walking by our lives, whether he finds fruit that he could pick and eat and be refreshed, or whether he just finds leaves. We look good, but we don't have any fruit. Whether he just finds fluff and puff. Sometimes I think it's like the soffit on our houses. Why do we put soffit? It covers up everything that's underneath there. It covers up the roof trusses that are coming down. It covers up the cobwebs and the spiders that would grow in those places where we don't clean them and we don't brush them very often. So what do? We just put the soffit on, and it covers all the junk up. And sometimes I think our lives are like that. We have all these leaves and we say nice things and we do nice things in public, but when we're in private, we're completely different people. There's really no fruit in our lives. Jesus came so that we could have life and have it more abundantly, so that we could have fruit, the fruit of the Spirit, peace, love, joy, kindness, mercy. And we could give those things away, which would be refreshing to others. And so Jesus cursed the fig tree and it withered. And the disciples were shocked. They were amazed, it says. How did the fig tree wither so quickly? They asked Jesus. And he replied, I tell you the truth. If you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but also you can say to a mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and that mountain will be removed. It will be done. Oh, that's a powerful statement. Jesus is saying we can take the mountains that come into our lives, the challenges, the hard moments, the tough things. Oh, some people actually feel like they're going crazy as we shelter in place. You can speak to this mountain. Jesus was teaching. It's so amazing. This is the last week of his life. He's not focusing on himself. He's focusing on his disciples, his followers. He wants to teach us how to be strong when there are storms in life. And so he said, you can say to that storm in your life, be removed and it will be cast into the sea. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Those are red letters. Jesus' words to us. Sometimes people say to me, well, Pastor, God really doesn't speak to me. And so I often look at them and say, really, when is the last time you actually just read the Bible? I read something this morning that said, Bible sales are up. More people are buying Bibles right now than they have in a long time. Why? Because we're looking for answers. We're looking for hope. We're looking for help. And we know that we need that help to come from a source that's bigger than any human being. And so we're looking to God. I encourage you to do that today. Transfer your trust from yourself to Jesus Christ. Allow Jesus to come in and do a makeover in your life from the inside out. The trouble is we try to do these makeovers all the time on our own with human willpower. But it doesn't work that way. We don't have enough willpower. And it breaks down and it wears out and we give up. But if we have God power, he said, to as many as believe on my name, I will give them power to become the children of God. That's John 1:12. I've loved that verse ever since I was a child because it told me that Jesus promised me something that I don't have on my own. I don't have the power to make my life okay. I don't have the power to change circumstances. I don't have the power to fix your life, but God does. He will give you power to become his child. He'll give you power to walk in obedience to his word. He'll give you power to do the things that in your heart and mind you wish you could do, but on your own you never seem to be able to get them done. Power to become. It says in Mark that when the disciples saw that fig tree wither, they were amazed. And when they were coming back out of town, Peter saw the tree and he remembered. And he said, Rabbi, look, the tree that you cursed has withered. And Jesus looked at him and he said these words to him, have faith in God. Now, for the longest time, that seemed like a very simple phrase until I started to really dig in and study it, and I researched it a little bit in the Greek, and I found out that it's a lot more than just humanly having faith. Matter of fact, in James chapter 2, verse 19, it says, you believe in one God? you do well. The demons also believe and tremble. So faith isn't just giving mental assent. It's not just having head knowledge. Oh yes, I believe that Jesus is God. Faith is a lot more than that. It's transferring our trust from ourselves to Jesus. It's living in obedience to his word and holding on to God's faithfulness. And that's what this phrase actually means. When Jesus looked at Peter and said, have faith in God, he was saying literally, hold on to God's faithfulness. And that's what we read all through the Bible. The psalmist, when you read the Psalms, many of the Psalms start out and the psalmist is discouraged, he's despairing. We might even say sometimes he was depressed. But at the end of the psalm, he always seems encouraged. And why? When you read those psalms, he always comes back to God's faithfulness. You've been faithful to me. And I want to encourage you to remember that God always does what he says he's going to do. And Jesus said, you can speak to your storms and they'll be removed from you. Or I'll give you the strength or the power to bear it or to be able to go through it. I'll get you through. Don't worry. So we just need to remember, God always keeps his word. He's always faithful. And so Jesus looked at Peter and said, remember God's faithfulness and hold on to it. And today, I want to encourage you to hold on to God's faithfulness. In Mark chapter 11, verse 23, this is what Jesus said, I tell you the truth. If you say to that mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and you don't doubt, it will be done. So just believe God. Hold on to that faithfulness. And then he said, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it. Trust God. He always keeps his word. When the shepherds went to the birth of Christ, when they left, they said these words, it's just like he said. We see all through the Bible, those words are repeated, just like God said. And so this last verse I want to share with you. When you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive him, so that your Father in heaven may forgive your sins. My dad taught me this very important lesson. My grandfather taught it to me as well. They had a phrase, and as a little child, I never really understood it, but the older I got, the more I knew what it meant. They always said, keep short accounts. They were referring to paying bills. They were referring to doing what you said you would do for your neighbor. Keep a short account. Don't let anything add up on the books. Now, sometimes it's easier to keep a short account when we're paying our bills, because it's much easier to write a check than to go to a friend and say the hardest words in life. I'm sorry, I was wrong, please forgive me. Those are the hardest words in the English language. And yet, I believe they're some of the most important words, because when we let the other person off the hook, we also let ourselves off the hook, and something else happens. That's when the grace and the mercy and the peace and the forgiveness of God flood into our souls. And so today, as you think about walking where Jesus walked, I want you to also think about what Jesus taught us to do, to trust him, to hold on to his faithfulness. I remind you, we've been praying and fasting. But as we've prayed and fasted, if we're holding unforgiveness in our heart, it's a block. It's a block to the blessing of God. And so get on your knees. Ask God to forgive you. But more than that, Go and make peace. How can you do that? You can do it by practicing the words of an old song that we were reflecting on just a few minutes ago. Put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the water. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea. And it's going to surprise you when his power and his strength flow through you and enable you to go and make peace. It will enable you to say to the mountain, be removed, and it will be cast into the sea. Nothing on the books. A clean slate. Oh, there's one more phrase in that song. I wouldn't have remembered except we listened to it. Put your hand in the hand of the man who cleared the temple. Oh, that's today in the walk of Jesus. He was clearing the temple. He was saying, you act like you're spiritual, but in reality, you're just religious. My house is not a den of thieves. My house is not a place for you to get personal gain. My house is a house of prayer. My house is a place for you to draw close to me, and I will draw close to you. So today, as you think about those steps of Jesus, as you see the Garden of Gethsemane behind me, and as a little bit in a moment as you see Jim Sunderworth singing and a scene from the old city of Jerusalem, remember where Jesus walked. And remember that he was taking those steps for you and for me to make a difference in our lives. And remember to do this. Don't trust your own strength. Don't live by willpower. Put your hand in the hand of the man who calmed the sea, and you'll live by God power. God bless you. See you again tomorrow.
I walked today where Jesus walked in days of long ago. I wandered down each path he knew with reverent step and slow. Those little lanes, they have not changed. A sweet peace filled the air. I walked today where Jesus walked and felt his presence there. My pathway led through Bethlehem, all memories ever sweet. The little town of Galilee that knew his child-like feet. The Mount of Olives hollow that Jesus knew before. I saw the mighty Jordan roll as in the days of old. I knelt Jesus knelt, where all alone he prayed. In the garden of Gethsemane, my heart felt unafraid. I my heavy burden up, and with him by my side, I climbed the hill of Calvary. I climbed the hill of Calvary. Oh, I climbed the hill of Calvary, where on that cross he died. I walked today where Jesus walked, and felt him close to me.